Hi, I'm Michelle Hieb. I'm the Deputy Director of Planting Roots, and with me today are Beth Sanders and Laura Fricke, and we're here to talk about the Invitation Project and hospitality and what that looks like in seasons of difficulty, especially during deployment or other challenging times. But for the military uniform woman and for the military spouse, I think deployments are probably the greatest challenge that we face. So we just wanted to talk about that. So Beth, Laura, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Hi, I'm Beth Sanders. I am a veteran as well as an Army spouse of 23 years, and I'm also the finance manager for Planting Roots.
Hi, I'm Laura Fricke. I'm an Army wife of only 2 years so far. My husband's been in the Army National Guard for a little over 20 years, and I am the app coordinator with the community team for Planting Roots.
And I'm going to put a plug here. Ladies, if you have not joined the community team on our app, you need to get in there. There's some amazing things, and it's a great place to build community. So I would say jump on our app and join us there as soon as possible. Maybe we'll have something in the show notes if we do show notes. I don't know. Okay. So all of us have been through deployments. We did 3 and a bit. We had a humanitarian mission, so it was less than a year, but we had 3 one-year deployments in our time of service. My husband served almost 21 years. How many deployments have you guys had? And what was I know, Laura, you said your military spouse. You've had a deployment in that 2-year marriage.
Yeah.
Is that your only one, or did you have one while you guys were like maybe dating?
He was in kind of the middle of a deployment to Syria when we were set up together. So we ended up doing video calls for like the last 2.5 months of that deployment. And then when he came home was actually the first time that we met in person. I picked him up from the airport.
Wow. That's fun. So you just like got full on military experience from the beginning.
Immersed.
And then dated, got married, and then shortly after.
We got married in July of 2024, and then he left in May of 2025. So we were together like 10 months.
Okay.
And then he got back this past May.
Oh, married 2 years, spent 1 year together.
Yeah.
Okay. Beth, what about you? What's your deployment experience?
Much like Laura, my first year of marriage, my husband and I were both deployed. And then 10 years into our marriage, he deployed again. So that at that time we had kids. The first time we did not.
Okay.
So they were very different deployments.
It sounds like it.
Being in uniform and then being on the other side was very different.
Okay. So you said you both deployed. Did you deploy at the same time to like the same place? Or
he deployed 6 weeks before I did. And then I met them in theater. And we ended up being in the same location, but not in the same unit. So we did not stay together.
That had to be really interesting.
It was.
That is a unique situation.
I don't know which is worse, being away and not knowing what's going on, or being there and knowing when your spouse is leaving the safety net of the base and going out into the unknown. So there were some difficult times when I knew he was leaving. And yeah, I held my breath one time when his commander called me, and it turned out he wanted something else, but I had no other reason in my mind for him to be calling me.
Yeah.
So your brain is not using rationale when you get that phone call sometimes. And when I played it back, I thought, oh, the chaplain would have come to see me.
I know the protocol. That wasn't the protocol.
But in that split second.
Yeah.
It was a bit challenging, but yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty fascinating that they would have you both. Yeah. And just that understanding of we both know what the other person's job is. We're trying to focus on our job and do it well, while at the same time, you're going through the emotions of my spouse is in a danger zone. Never mind that I am, because you're the one who's dealing with it. So it's a different mindset when you're just, this is what I do.
100%.
That's so, wow. Diverse experiences. Our very first one, we'd only been in the military about 6 months. We were married for 5 years before we joined the military, had 2 kids. We'd gotten to Fort Campbell. They deployed, initial invasion, Iraq. So I moved back home. So I spent that first deployment back home with our church family, and everything was very new in the world. Our second one, I stayed at Fort Eustis, where we had friends. And at that time I had 4 smallish kids. They were probably all early, like 8 to 13, I guess. And then our fourth one, we had teenagers, and that one was probably our most challenging one because we had a year-long fight that I love to tell people about. We homeschooled, and he had a book he wanted the children to read, and I didn't want them to read it. I didn't think it was the right book at the right time, and he was really adamant. So, yeah, so in case you wonder, people can have fights. People will fight while they're deployed and separated. Marriage continues regardless. We have made up, and it has become a long-standing joke in the family. So nobody needs to worry about that. So highlights, we're talking hospitality, which is, I think so much of the times when we think hospitality, we think inviting people into our home for dinner. It's always some type of in our home, but hospitality can look so many different ways. So thinking of hospitality during those experiences, what were some of the best experiences you had with other people, just showing you the love of God?
So from a deployed perspective, we had a women's group from a church adopt our unit, and specifically the women of my unit, and they sent boxes and boxes of Bath and Body Works spray and note cards and coffee and just treats and all sorts of different things. And I got to be the person who handed it out. So it was a lot of fun doing that as well. But we each had one person specifically adopt us. I'd say this was about 5 months into the deployment, and then they sent us things every month. It was really neat.
That is super sweet. Now, if you were in charge of distributing all that, were you ever tempted to you found your favorite things and you're like, I'm going to keep these first? Or were you like, no, this is for
No, it was
never
really
temptation?
Neat. It was so neat to call down to all of the units, because I was at the headquarters building, and I got to say, just send all your female soldiers this way. Oh, and I was also part of that initial invasion. So that is when feminine products were sparse and toilet paper was sparse. And
wow.
so they could send all that stuff too. So it was nice to have other women know what other women need, type of deal,
Remember in that first, sending lots of baby wipes and all those things because of, I've forgotten about, the feminine hygiene need. I think I may have sent some of those to my husband at some point because he's like, we need to take care of the women. Wow. Hopefully that's not still the same issue, but that's awesome. That's amazing that those women were taking such good care of you. Laura, what about you? What was your favorite hospitality moment?
I feel like it was like little things people would do, like consistently. Like I had a local friend who I used to work with who asked me if I would walk once a week with her, and we'd be like prayer partners. So almost every week, like we'd walk together for like an hour and give prayer requests. And a lot of times if she came over to walk with me, like if I was talking to her about, like my car battery died or like something's going on with the house, like she's like, oh, like if you want help shoveling or something, like we could just do that now while I'm here. And she would just like offer. Like there are things that I wouldn't have felt comfortable like asking someone to do with me, but she just was like, I'm here, like let's do it. And it took away like all of the like stress of like me realizing I'll have to do these things alone, or like I have to figure out who to ask. Or I had another friend that she would invite me over to the house, like just she'd cook dinner for her and her husband, and it wasn't like she did anything like crazy big, like extra for me, but it was just like, do you want to come over, have dinner with us, and we can like watch a show together? It was just like things like that, like being included in people's lives, and I didn't feel as forgotten.
Yeah, because I think sometimes it's those nights when we're sitting at home and everything's quiet that it gets the hardest. And so for other people to be like, I'm thinking of you, and then to act on it.
Yeah.
Those are some really good friends to keep them around.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite memories is that very first deployment when I said we had moved back home. I had a 5-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old at the time. So I had 3 small children. And so it was a church that we'd been a part of for several years. And I remember I had a friend, like you said, and she had small children. We had kids the same age, but she would keep showing up and mowing my grass. And I'm like, I can mow my lawn. She's like, yeah, but I can do it faster, and you've got the baby. I don't have a baby. And I'm like, okay. But I remember it was Christmas time, And we didn't have all of our Christmas stuff. We weren't sure. And one of the gentlemen in our church overheard me talking about how my kids loved Christmas lights and how much they enjoyed going out. And that's something Mike would have done on our house. And then I just came home one day from like running errands, and they had put Christmas lights on the bushes and hung like a Christmas star on the front porch. It wasn't super elaborate, but they had taken the time just because they knew my kids would enjoy that and coming home and seeing Christmas lights. And that to me was one of the most amazing things, because it really was that, like, I thought of you, and I would never in a million world have said, hey, will somebody go buy me some Christmas lights and put them up? No. But it was just out of their generosity and their love for me and my family that they did that. And it was like, it's just in those moments you're just like, I'm not alone. And it was like God just giving me that little, girl, I see you. I see your kids. And it's those little moments that it's like, yay. So to shift it a little bit, we've talked about some of those positives. Were there any moments where you're like, man, folks missed the mark on that one?
I think like for me, it was more some of the people that I thought were like really close to me that had verbalized or like indicated like, yeah, once Chris is gone, like, we'll make sure that we include you in this or we do this together. Like some of the people I like was kind of mentally relying on the most to show up, like weren't the people it did. And so like it took a little bit for me to like recalibrate and realize like, okay, like they might not be, but then these other people that I didn't expect it from are showing up for me. And like I can realize like they're going through the bad times with me, and like I never would have asked them or expected them to. So it's kind of like learning to be grateful for things even if they look different.
Yeah. That's, I think, probably one of our biggest lessons just in life in general, but especially those hard seasons where maybe our own negative spiral is already happening. I remember, I think, just reading a book that talked about focusing on gratitude and looking for those things to be grateful, those little God moments. And sometimes they feel really small, sometimes they can be really big, but helping to retrain our mind, because it is easy just to like put ourselves into a sadness spiral. Woe was me. I mean, at least for me, maybe for you guys, you might be eternal optimists, but I have a tendency
No, I'm
towards,
like you.
okay.
I
Towards that.
I think, like you said, it's easy to get into that woe is me downward spiral. But if you can find the gratitude in those moments, one, it makes the time go a little bit faster, and it's also more bearable. I know we're talking about hospitality here, but this is also where I had a gratitude journal going, because I think I needed to focus on those moments, on those things that I was grateful for, because as being a spouse now on that side of deployment with 3 small children as well, it would have been very easy for me to get anxious and caught up in the hardness of life. But I think having a way to go back and look on my day with some gratitude surely helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I think too, the people that you choose to surround yourself with and spend your time with. I remember that first deployment, I too found this was back in online and dial up days. I'm dating myself for that very first one, but it was also those first like chat rooms. And I remember connecting with some spouses from Fort Campbell who had stayed there while I had gone home, but it was easy to connect with and find out what's going on or to do things. And I had to watch, which places, and you found the people, like there are people who are going to be positive and cheerful, but there are also folks that were always like just looking for I want to complain about the Army. I want to complain about all the things. I just want to complain. And so I found that, I had to stay away from that. I had to be like, no, I can't focus on the complaining. I need to focus on what's good. And if it's not good, what can I do? And where can I go to make it good again? Like find those relationships. And so, Laura, I know you found us during this season of deployment, right? So how did that end up coming out? How did you end up finding Planting Roots in this season?
It was kind of weird because I was online one night. I think it was in like July, maybe, when I reached out to you guys last year. And I was like partly wanting to find like a cause to volunteer for, because I was like, I felt like it would be good for me. And I wanted like something that I was passionate about like already too. So I was like searching stuff, using ChatGPT, all that. And there was like a few military affiliated organizations that popped up, and Planting Roots was one of them. And I think at the time I like didn't know anything about it. And I was like, oh, like that's interesting. So I went on the Instagram page and looked around, and then it was like the timing was like perfect because it was just after they had put out like an ad about like looking for volunteers because they were expanding with the app and everything. So I was like, oh, like I'll just message them and see what happens. And then you guys replied back. And then it kind of was like a twofold thing because it was a way like I could serve. And I've always like deeply cared about the military. Even before I got married to a military guy, like I always cared a lot about it. And it also was like beneficial for me too, because I did find a community of people who actually understood. And I like really, really needed that at the time, like bad. So yeah, it worked out
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, I remember being lucky enough to get to have some conversations with you in those early days
Yeah.
to meet you. I'm super thankful because I just love you to death. And so, we've already started sharing a little bit about our advice for people, the staying positive, looking for the gratitude. But we're kind of entering a new season of deployments and uncertainties in the military world. What advice? I want to go through a couple different groups. So, just thinking military wives right now, those women who are in that, whether they're National Guard, whether reserves or active duty, what would you encourage them to be doing now as they prepare for a potential deployment? We'll start with the preparing for a deployment, and then we'll talk about the I'm actually in a deployment. What do I do? Because I think it's two different things.
From the spouse perspective, I know it's very difficult to prepare for the deployment, especially if you know 3 and 4 months out that there's going to be a deployment. You just keep preparing for it and preparing for it and preparing for it. And by the time that day comes, you're like, has it started yet? I would say one of the big things my husband and I did together, we bought the same devotional book to do while he was deployed. But we also got into the mode of praying together every night before he left. And then once he was gone, when he was able to call home, we were able to do the devotion together as well as pray together. And I think it really helped strengthen our marriage. As far as what we did for our children, we did talk about a lot about God's plan, what he has in store for us, that our story looks different than others. And then we also did, remembering they were small, so we did a countdown with marbles, taking one marble to a new bucket every day.
Yeah.
And so, we didn't keep the deployment from them, but we also didn't keep the news on either.
Yeah, you have to find that balance. I remember we had a map of the world, and so that we could put 2 stars, one where we were and where when Daddy was, and then a map of the actual country where we and so we use it as geography lessons and talking for the ones. And we also recorded voices. I'm thinking about the children. We had done the Build-A-Bear where my husband recorded something for each of them so they could hear his voice, as he say, "Good night, I love you." And it would be fun. Every now and then you just hear some, a dad voice.
Yeah, we did the same thing. And it was very beneficial. I know some people also recorded their spouse reading books to their children. I don't remember if we did that or not, but that was another thing that was done.
Yeah. Again, dating myself, but we had done, there's other ways to do it, but like you could use voice memos now, but we would send tapes back and forth. We both had those like little micro cassette tapes, and we would record like just aspects of the day. Like, here we are having dinner together, and record like the dinner conversation. And I could mail that tape off to my husband. So that's something we could do now, just using voice memos that we could send and maybe record. Laura, what advice would you give for, especially thinking about a guard wife where you don't have necessarily the support system of a base and a unit? What would you encourage them to do as they prepare in their local community?
Yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing going into mine. So I just kind of learned along the way. But I would say try to like seek out the right community like before he leaves. Like I didn't really find that till like partway through. And I think like, of course, like civilian friends, like they all are great, but it's like really, really helpful to find other military people. And for me, like it almost exclusively was remote people. Like there's like one wife I know that's local to my area, but like all the other wives in the unit weren't local. So I connected with a few of them over time, but then I also like connected with others that weren't related to his unit at all. Like I connected with some of the Planning Roots people. There's a girl who lives out of state that I've never met in person before, but I would consider her like one of my closest military friends because I went through some of her first deployment with her, then she went through my whole deployment, and now she's on her second one. And I can't imagine like not having those people now, especially like other believers that are looking at it from the same perspective. Like that probably was like the biggest hurdle that I kind of went through, was just like the loneliness and finding like people that were the right support system. But my husband and I did a devotional together too. We just did like a once a week thing. And then we do this app where like it would ask each of you like a question every day. And it could be like something lighthearted or something like serious relationship wise. And you each answer separately and then you see each other's answer. So we kind of did that like a lot of the days, even just verbally, like we talk about it. And that kind of helped me feel like connected too with him still.
So this was an app that you guys used?
Yeah.
Okay, you're
The
gonna
one
have
we
to.
used was called Agape, but it's,
Okay.
yeah, you can write out your answers and it sends to each other, or we just like would talk about them too.
Okay. I'm thinking we're going to have to include that into our bonus features for the invitation project.
Oh, yeah.
For those folks who don't know, the invitation project, which I did not bring with me today. I apologize. I'm in a new location. It is our newest book, and it just encourages women through all the seasons of military life. And we have bonus features. So you go to our website, we have all sorts of different fun bonus, but that's definitely going to have to make the bonus of ways to connect with your spouse. And so help me remember that after this.
Yeah.
The conversation.
I would also say finding a church community really helped me. I wasn't remote during my husband's deployment, but we were also not with a unit that deployed together. So when my church found out he was deploying, I felt like they just had their arms wrapped around me. Each week I showed up for Bible study. They'd make it a priority to ask how I was doing. Sometimes one of the ladies took my youngest child, who was not of school age, and she would just come and pick him up, which helped me greatly because I was parenting. I say solo parenting. My husband doesn't like that because he said, I was a parent too, but I said, you weren't here.
Carrying the weight of the emotional, but there's that active every day
Yes.
that is like you're bearing that burden.
Yes. And I had little people around me all the time. So it was a great opportunity for them to love on me, and I greatly appreciated it.
Yeah. And that's what I would encourage is along that is just allow people to serve you. I think one of the downsides of being military spouses that we can really get into that mindset of I have to take care of it. You know, the dishwasher broke, I have to do it. And we stop asking, or even when people offer, accepting the offer.
Yeah.
We want to offer, we expect people to accept our offerings when we do it,
Right.
but we need to learn how to accept it as well. And that can be humbling in its own, but like you said, it's so rewarding. My sister-in-law did the same thing for me. She'd come and be like, I'm taking all 3 kids. And I'm like, but I don't have anything to, she's like, take a nap.
Exactly.
Read it. Like, I'm like, but why? I don't have anything to do. She's like, that's the whole point. You need some time to not have to do or read.
Downtime.
I would never have thought of that on my own because I was like, these are my kids. I'm responsible for them.
Yeah.
And so I was so grateful though afterwards.
Even going grocery shopping by myself.
Yes, it goes so much faster.
Yes.
It goes so much faster. Okay, so for the uniformed woman who's preparing maybe for her very first deployment. And so we've got 2 different, and Beth, where I've never worn the uniform, but I have such deep admiration. So I'm thinking too, there's 2 mindsets. You have the uniformed woman who maybe doesn't have children, could be single, could be married like you, but we don't have children involved with this. And then you have the uniformed woman who's also walking away, having to leave her children behind for an undisclosed amount of time. So what advice would you give those 2 women as they're preparing?
Oh, I did not have children when I deployed, but when orders came down for me to deploy, I had 6 weeks. So I also didn't have time to ruminate on it. But I would highly suggest when they give you a packing list, add your Bible. And now you can take phones. We didn't have phones when I deployed. Or you weren't allowed to take them, but now there are apps, and just download the apps. Like this Agape app, download the Mighty app with planting roots, download your app, your Bible app, YouVersion. And I would also suggest finding the chaplain and seeing if there are Bible studies that they can plug you into. Sometimes the chaplains do provide Bible studies and do Bible studies downrange. However, Now there are more specific ones for women that I don't think were as prevalent for the uniformed woman. So I would suggest taking those as well. And for the military women with children, even doing the same things that we said earlier, record yourself, reading books to your children, saying prayers with your children, singing songs, doing the Build-A-Bear type of deal. Yeah.
Those things. Yeah, it's that voice is so important.
Yeah.
So places that we can put those voices. And as you're saying, I'm going to put another plug for Planting Roots. We have 2 studies that we've written specifically for military women. We have the Bible Boot Camp for Women, which chaplains can get at no cost from the American Bible Society. And then a Deeply Rooted study that we've written that can be purchased off of Amazon, shipped directly to you anywhere in the world. And that one was written specifically for a uniformed woman as well, by a uniformed woman. Casey has her MDiv, and all of our materials, I love to remind people, all of our materials do go through a theological review through our board of directors, which is an interdenominational group of people. So we know that it's theologically sound. You aren't just getting a bunch, there's grounding and there's checks. So you don't have to worry, you can trust the materials we're sending you. You're not joining a cult.
Yeah. One other thing I just thought of. I did not realize it when I deployed, but we had some people bring instruments. And if you are a music person, take your guitar, take your violin. We had somebody bring keyboards with them. I didn't realize we were allowed to do this, but there were little praise bands that formed and played for different units, different chaplains who, once we got set up in the country, we were able to have and hold chapel services. So you could pick which chapel service you wanted to go to. And it was so nice when there was music available and you didn't have to sing a cappella. But, just the small things that maybe make you feel and that you're drawing closer to God. And for me, it's singing praise music. And at the time I had a Discman. So I had to take like 10 discs and, I was really having to pick through my CDs. Which ones do I want to take with me?
Which are the most important, and how do I keep the sand out of everything?
Yeah. And, I would listen to that music as I fell asleep at night. So putting together a playlist for your deployment, I would highly suggest that.
Yeah. Playlists are important. And I would suggest even you can make through different things, you can have friends you can make your playlist open where other people can add a song to your playlist. I had a particularly difficult season where a friend did that for me. She just created this playlist, opened it up, shared it, and was like, if you have a special worship song that's meaning something to you today, add this for Michelle. And I would listen to those as I was walking to and from my lodging to the hospital and back at night, or when my husband just needed me to be quiet. And so, yeah, those music in that playlist, because it was just like, I couldn't think, I couldn't talk, I couldn't remember things, but I could just hear, reminding myself to trust God and that He's got all of the things in those. So yeah, that's a great idea. I'm trying to think, do we have any last thoughts for women as we're going into deployment, walking into a challenging season? And it may not be deployment. It could be the reintegration, which I think we need to do a whole different episode on reintegration. We aren't going to go into that. Those were probably sometimes more challenging for me than the deployments, it seemed. At least for a couple of weeks, months. Any last words to say for the women out there who are like, yeah, you guys can do this. You've done it. You just don't get me.
I feel like one of the things I learned on the other side of it was like the days leading up to deployment, me and my husband weren't our best selves. Like, cause we had a long time of like anticipating it too. We knew about it like at least a year in advance. So like, I just had a lot of anxiety, like leading up to it, because I knew like even when we got married, like it's coming, like, and so that made me more like on edge. Like every holiday or every time me and my husband spent together, it was like, oh, I gotta like soak this in because he won't be here for the next holiday and stuff. And then on the flip side, like he got a little bit more distant, like emotionally and mentally, and I didn't understand at the time because I thought it was like personal. Like I was like, I must be doing something wrong, like if he's acting like this. And then as I talked to other military wives, they were like, well, my husband was like this. This is their way of like preparing to like shift their mindset into deployment mode. And it's nothing about you. Like the world's not coming to an end. So it just, and I believed them at the time, but it still just felt scary. Mm-hmm. So now on the other side of it, like it just helps now, like, if we get another deployment coming up, for me to understand, like, okay, we both will probably be a little off getting closer to it, and, like, it'll be okay. Like, it won't stay like this forever.
Yeah, that's important to remember, to give each other a lot of grace and remember that other person is also going through a really hard thing and that none of us have ever done. So you don't know how to react to it when you've never done it before. Just because, and even if you've already done one or two, each one is so different. And
They're all different.
And you're a different person with each time, because of your prior experiences or those things. Beth, do you have any last thoughts for our lady?
I think just like what you said, every deployment is different. And I would say, you eat the elephant one bite at a time. Don't go in thinking or viewing the deployment as the whole year or the full amount of time, just one day at a time. And with God's help, you'll be able to move forward and take the next step, because it is a daunting process.
That is such great advice. That's like, yeah, one day at a time, trust Jesus, thank him for getting you through that day. And how are you going to do it the next day? There's one where he just says, behold, I am doing something new. After recounting all of these things God has done for the people of Israel and all these ways. And he's like, you've seen all that. Now I'm doing something new in this situation. And then he is the God of new, and he just keeps showing up, doing new things in each of those spaces. And I just want to say, I remind ladies that we do have a resource to help you in this. The Invitation Project, again, is a book full of our stories. I get to go a little bit more in depth on my stories from deployment and from hard seasons. We've got people that are dual military, but each season of life, and each one comes with some little instructions and encouragement on if you are having a hard time connecting with people, like maybe your community has failed you, Laura, like you were saying, where it's like the people I thought were going to show up stopped. What we're hoping to do is just encourage you and equip you to do it, find it yourself. You can be the one that issued the invitation, even when you're in here. And maybe you're scared and you've never done a Bible study before. And you're like, I can't lead this. We're giving you help and tips and reminding that you can trust God. And you can just invite a couple women over and say, hey, will you come over and can we pray with each other? Let's have coffee and let's let the kids play around our feet and let's just pray for each other. And you can just ask God, and he's going to point you to. Don't be afraid, because the chances are that if you are afraid, lonely, new, somebody else is afraid, lonely, and maybe haven't been there, but they're the last one left behind. We've all, as you start moving and all your friends that you made during your duty station years, they've moved and now you have to find new ones. We're always in some kind of season. And so try not to assume that other women aren't going to be there for you. God's got them for you. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us here today. Thank you, listeners, for giving us some time. I hope that you've been able to glean some nuggets, and perhaps you aren't facing a deployment, but you just know somebody who is, and you've learned some ways that you can support them. I do encourage you to check out our website, our Instagram, the Mighty app, YouVersion. If you've got the Bible app, we have YouVersion Bible studies there. We have devotionals there to encourage you in this military life, and we are continuing and look forward to encouraging you in the future and building community with you. So join us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much for listening today.